April 12, 1945, near Eisenach, Germany. Cold rain swept across a prisoner of war enclosure beside a bombed-out Luftwaffe airfield. Destroyed Messerschmitt fighters and Junkers bombers lay twisted in the mud under a gray sky. The war in Europe was dying. American artillery rumbled in the distance. Defeated German columns shuffled westward. The air smelled of diesel fuel, wet wool, cordite, and surrender. More than 600 German prisoners huddled behind double concertina wire. Their greatcoats were soaked through. Their faces were hollow from retreat, bombardment, and hunger. Some were teenagers pulled from Hitler Youth units. Others were old reservists, mechanics, factory workers, and clerks, handed rifles when Germany ran out of men. American sentries from Patton's Third Army patrolled the perimeter. Their carbines hung low across their chests. At the entrance, a hand-painted sign read, "Enemy prisoner of war enclosure, 3rd U.S. Army." Inside this wire, the war was over. Then one man broke the silence. Lieutenant Colonel Otto von Brandt stood in the center of the compound. His field gray greatcoat was soaked and splattered with mud, but still buttoned perfectly to the throat. Silver oak leaves marked his collar. A thin monocle sat in his right eye, giving him the look of an aristocrat who still believed history owed him respect. Beside him, a nervous young captain whispered, "Herr Oberstleutnant, please, it may be wiser to comply." Von Brandt did not look at him. "They are shopkeepers and mechanics, playing at being soldiers," he said coldly. "I will not lower myself by groveling like a common criminal." The nearby prisoners edged away. They had all heard of Patton. At the main gate, a burly American master sergeant stepped inside with 2 military policemen. "All right, listen up," he barked. "You will be processed one at a time, single file, name, rank, and unit. Any weapons, documents, maps, or intelligence materials, hand them over. We do this quickly, quietly, and without trouble." Most prisoners shuffled forward. Von Brandt did not move. The sergeant spotted him. "You there, officer with the fancy eyepiece, front and center, now." Von Brandt slowly removed one leather glove and flicked mud from his sleeve. He said nothing. The sergeant took 2 steps closer. "I gave you an order, Colonel." Still, the German officer did not move. Finally, the sergeant turned to an MP. "Go get the general. Tell him we've got a problem." The MP jogged toward the olive-drab command tents along the ruined runway. Minutes stretched. Prisoners whispered nervously. The young captain leaned toward Von Brandt again. "Sir, this is not worth the risk. Please." Von Brandt stared forward, motionless. Then the flap of the largest command tent snapped open. A tall, broad-shouldered figure stepped into the rain. Helmet pushed back, twin ivory-handled Colt .45 revolvers riding low on his hips. Every American soldier straightened. A whisper spread through the German ranks. Patton, General George S. Patton, strode across the mud like he owned the ground beneath him. Rain streamed off his helmet. Mud splashed his polished boots. He entered the enclosure and stopped less than 5 feet from Von Brandt. For several seconds, neither man spoke. Patton broke the silence. "Which one of you clowns figures he's still running the damn show around here?" Von Brandt lifted his chin. "I am Lieutenant Colonel Otto von Brandt of the 11th Panzer Division," he said. "I demand to be treated with the respect and dignity appropriate to my rank under the rules of civilized warfare." Patton's face barely moved. He removed his gloves slowly and tucked them into his belt. "You demand respect?" Patton repeated. "Well, Colonel, let me paint you a very clear picture." He pointed toward the eastern horizon. "That direction is Berlin. My tanks and my men have been driving toward it day and night, smashing through everything your high command threw in our way. Your once proud army has been running the other direction like scared rabbits." He stepped closer. "You are no longer in the Wehrmacht, Colonel. You are standing inside an American prisoner cage under American rules." Von Brandt's monocle flashed dull gray. "The Geneva Convention clearly states—" Patton cut him off. "The Geneva Convention guarantees you food, shelter, and medical attention. It does not give you the right to give orders to my sergeants or stand there pretending you're still commanding a parade ground." He leaned in. "You lost. Your panzers are burned-out hulks. Your Luftwaffe is wreckage. Your Führer is hiding in a bunker, wondering how his 1,000-year Reich collapsed so fast. And yet here you are, demanding respect like the war hasn't already been decided." A nervous laugh moved through the American guards. "I remain an officer of the German army," he said stiffly. "I will not be herded like common enlisted men." Patton studied him, then laughed once. "Well, that's a new one," he called to the master sergeant. "The colonel here refuses to be spoken to like a private soldier." Then Patton stepped almost nose to nose with him. "Son, right now the only rank that matters inside this wire is mine. You will step forward when told. You will answer when asked. And you will do it with the same discipline your own army used to demand before it fell apart around you." More than 600 men held their breath. Patton glanced at his watch. "You have 10 seconds to decide whether you walk to that processing table under your own power, or my men carry you there." Rain hammered the compound. 1, 2. Water slid down von Brandt's monocle. 3, 4. The young captain behind him looked ready to faint. 5, 6. Patton did not blink. 7, 8. Von Brandt's shoulders sagged. Barely. 9. At 10, the German officer slowly reached up and removed the monocle. He slipped it into his coat pocket with careful dignity. Then, without another word, he walked through the mud toward the processing table. There was no fanfare, no final protest, just boots sinking into wet clay and the quiet surrender of a man forced to watch his world end. The master sergeant opened his clipboard. "Name, Otto von Brandt," the German answered, his voice flat. "Rank and last unit, Lieutenant Colonel, 11th Panzer Division. Weapons, documents, or personal effects?" In silence, von Brandt emptied his pockets. A leather wallet, a silver cigarette case engraved with a family crest, and a fold-in situation map that no longer mattered. Finally, he placed the monocle on top of the pile. An MP tied the canvas sack shut. Patton watched without comment. When the processing was complete, von Brandt was directed toward the officer section. Patton spoke again. Von Brandt stopped and turned. Patton approached him. This time, his voice was quieter. "You're not the first German officer I've met who tried to cling to the old ways until the end. In your army, rank was too often about privilege, better quarters, softer assignments, the right to look down on the men beneath you." He gestured toward the American guards. "In my army, rank is responsibility. The heavier the burden, the higher you stand. That's why we're still moving forward and why you're standing behind this wire." For the first time, von Brandt met Patton's eyes without defiance. Only exhaustion remained. Patton gave a curt nod. "Get some rest while you can, Colonel. This war is almost over for every last one of us." Then he turned and walked back toward the gate, ivory-handled revolvers swinging at his sides. The rain kept falling, but the tension had broken. Prisoners began speaking again. The processing line resumed. In the distance, another column of captured German soldiers was being marched up the muddy road from the east. At the gate, Patton looked back one final time. Otto von Brandt stood quietly among the captured officers. No monocle, no demands, no aristocratic theater. Just another defeated soldier waiting for whatever came next. A small smile touched the corner of Patton's mouth. Then he stepped through the gate into the rain. Behind him, the barbed wire gate slammed shut with a heavy clang. The Third Army still had work to do. Berlin and final victory still lay ahead. But in that filthy prisoner enclosure beside a ruined airfield, another remnant of the old Reich had been forced to accept reality. Patton had taught the lesson clearly. For men like Otto von Brandt, the hardest battle was no longer against the Allies.